Just want to let you all know that if you're new to the podcast, please, if you like the podcast, please rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps with getting more listeners and subscribers our way. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe.
I do want to mention, hey, Nicky and I did a little, we recorded a few years ago. We recorded a song a week.
For
live
a whole year,
for 52, a whole year, and some of those songs.
So we had 52 songs. By the end
and
of the year.
Some of them during the holidays we recorded some Christmas tunes, and we have those that is available as a Christmas holiday EP right now. You can listen to it on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music, or you can download it for purchase on Bandcamp. That'd be maxandnicky.bandcamp.com.
What's
or you can
it called?
Listen on SoundCloud, or not? It's not SoundCloud. It's called Max and Nicky's Christmas album.
Lovely.
And you got White Christmas on there in the vein of the Drifters, so it's a doo-wop version. You got a song by our sister Laura Weinbach that we performed called "I'm Not Really in the Christmas Mood This Year." I'll be home for Christmas
and have yourself a merry little Christmas.
And we do it in that unique Max and Nicky way. So you'll be hearing some harmonies there.
Love it. Is there any whistling?
There is definitely some whistling on Have
Yourself a Merry Little Christmas,
I believe. Wait, is there?
I don't know.
It's worth listening to the whole album just for the whistles.
We do have also, as we said, we have Max and Nicky's Top 40, which was part of the 52 weeks of recording, and we have whistling on that if you want to check that out as well. So.
And one more thing to promote. Sorry, a lot of shameless self-promotion.
We're eating through the tape, guys.
But we are. Real quick, we also, if you're thinking about last minute Christmas presents, we have a Max and Nicky t-shirt for sale. You can go find that on maxandnicky.com, okay?
Is it holiday themed or no?
It's not. It's year round, so you can wear it year round.
You can wear it year round.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Welcome back to another edition of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome. We've got an interesting episode for today. I initially thought we were going to do something else, but Sight and Sound just released their... every decade they come out with a list of... that they poll critics, and they do a separate list where they poll directors to come up with their definitive 100 greatest movies of all time.
List.
And let's just say I found the list to be outrageous. And I thought...
outrageously good or bad?
Outrageously bad. I had to talk about these lists and lists like these. And so that is our topic for today.
Well,
when publications come out with the 100 greatest anything, so like Rolling Stone will do their 500 greatest albums of all time.
Who are the top 5 publications that do this? Sorry,
I would say Rolling Stone does it all the time. Sight and Sound does this. AFI does their 100
greatest. I know AFI
greatest.
has one, yeah.
And
who are you supposed to, like, what? Okay, well, we'll get into
NME does it for music.
NME, yeah, that's a British publication, right?
What is Sight and Sound? What is it? Is
it's
the magazine?
Sight is the action by which you see, and sound is the action by which you hear.
But what is that together? Right. What does it mean together?
Or actually, it's just the thing that you would hear.
Well, no, Sight and Sound is a publication. I think it's an online publication now that's put out by the British Film Institute.
Okay.
But apparently they polled...
it's British. I didn't know.
They polled, I think, like thousands of critics, but it does seem like...
And
we'll get to it when we decide.
They do it every 10 years, right?
They do it every... So the last one was in 2012.
And yeah. I mean, I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, but here's I have something to say about it too, that, well, we'll get into it, but I think a lot of the critics that voted in it, I think, are shocked even, actually. So just let that be known.
What?
Are
shocked.
Surprised as well. Maybe not shocked, but surprised.
No, I don't think that.
French. One of you who studied French, can you say the name of the supposedly best film of all time?
Well, it's Jean d'Allemand. 23 or 23. There's more to the.
So it's title. A woman's name and her address. Is that am I understanding it?
23 Quai du Commerce.
Quai du Commerce.
1080 Bruxelles.
And that's her address, I'm assuming, or what? Oh, well, have either of you seen this movie?
I haven't, but that is.
I have heard about this movie.
You'd heard of it before this.
I've heard about this because of its length. Actually, it's this.
It's almost 3.5 hours long.
It's a highly regarded movie that
cooking
is very long. Yeah,
brushing her teeth. Right,
and the idea is that you just see this woman doing chores and stuff around the house for a long.
Well, there's more to it than that, though.
There is, but
sure, of course, she's a widow, right, or something like that.
When we get into it,
I believe she's a prostitute. Actually,
look, when we get into it, I'll describe part of why it's outrageous that.
Okay.
This is
I think film. Nicky should.
She might also be a widow.
Nicky should obviously take the against.
Sure, I played the judge last week.
Hold on, Tio.
You played judge last time. Okay.
I played judge last.
Oh, he did.
I'm gonna play pro. I'll be pro.
Yeah, I'll be the judge, I guess.
Great.
Hear ye, all the court is in session.
Oh man, you might have to be permanent judge with that read.
You got the part.
Yeah, sorry.
That's just how I talk. I do say. I feel like hear ye. It's almost if you can change that into a Kennedy accent a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hear ye. I say by the laws of the land that we are going to start this session right now.
That's a weird thing.
That almost turned into a Jerry Seinfeld too.
Yeah, right. I've had these things. These kids today, they want to be voting on the sight and sounds. 100 best films, and I don't even know where they're getting this from. Who are these people?
Who is the British Film Institute? It's an institute? Are we institutionalizing these films? Are these films crazy? Are they
This
insane?
list is crazy, I tell you.
All right, so Max will be the judge, Nickon will be pro, and I'll be against. And look, at any point we can,
and we don't have to adhere to that steadfastly.
As
throw it all
if you're a new listener or watcher of the podcast, these are just the roles we're taking on in the beginning of the episode, but.
Yes, we're not bound by any kind of laws or anything like that to maintain or fiduciary.
It's the Wild West over here.
Is that my phone or is that your
obligation?
So,
So, does anybody know why they only do it once every 10 years?
I think they need to give it some time for movies to come out. I think to do it every year would be a little bit of a waste of time. I think
on the current list, there are eight total movies from the 21st century.
Oh, there's another reason why. It takes them a long time to just for one critic to go through the whole process of compiling their list. And I think, to ask them to do that every year, would be too long for them. I think.
You're right. It takes a long time. I mean, for them to organize all of these lists from all the critics and directors.
Sure. Oh, right. Okay. There's different lists for each, right? Oh, I should pull that up.
Yes. The director list is a little bit different. Yeah. It's a little bit better, but it's
little bit. But still, the fact that this woman eating breakfast or whatever, ex-prostitute, whatever she is,
you're already not doing your job of being pro list. But you might be fired soon.
Are we in it? Let's do it.
Yeah, and I just want to.
Oh wait, hold on. Just some station business first. Any station business? Anybody want to say anything?
I got nothing going on.
Well, I mean, just how was your week, guys?
That kind of station business. Yeah, it was good. Yeah,
it's all right.
I mean,
I will say not much changed.
Not much changed from last week.
From last weekend to this weekend.
Nikon's still in California, but he'll be back.
Still in California
in a few days. He'll be back in New York in a few days, and
we got some rain going on right now. That's good. It's much needed.
Oh, really? That's nice. Much needed in California.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've gotten that station business out of the way.
Yeah. Now that we're talking about weather, I think we're done with station.
That is isn't that that is the the stereotypical subject matter when you know a conversation's gotten stale is like when weather is mentioned. So
Right,
the weather, how's the weather today?
Okay, so I guess I'll start because I kind of came up with the topic. I found this list and other lists like it to be completely outrageous. First of all, look, I understand that you want to celebrate certain films that might be under the radar and might be films that not everybody knows, but and
well,
you
that's
want
exactly
them,
my point.
more people to watch them. But in general, lists like these come across as quite elitist, very pretentious, and I mean, this movie that was voted the greatest movie of all time, Jean Diamant, 23 Quai du Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles, from 1975. It's almost 3.5 hours long. And that wouldn't be a problem, but...
No, of course not.
I was reading a review from one of the critics that voted on this, and she wrote an article for Vox, I think, or maybe it was for the AV Club, but she wrote that when she first watched the movie, she said for the greater part of the film, she was extremely bored. And she said not until the end did she realize that was the point and that it was an epiphany at the end that she had. And I just thought, okay, I was talking with a friend of mine about this. For a movie to be voted as the greatest film of all time, there are two criteria that I think are required. One, it should be aesthetically pleasing, and there should be artistic merit to it. So it can't just be one or the other for it to be the greatest film of all time.
Who are you to say that it's not aesthetically pleasing?
Well, for somebody that found it to be extremely boring and still voted it as the greatest movie of all time, that's very bizarre and pretentious, I think.
Order. I'll have order in the court. Order in the court. I just need to point out something here. I don't believe the critics choose an order for their list. They're not putting that at the top of their list.
But it's because
this is coming from a critic at Decider, and he said, this is according to him. He didn't vote this time around, but he's voted in the past, and he said, I kind of doubt that any film of the film critics who put Chantal Ackerman's Jean Diamant 23 Commerce Quai 1080 Brussels on their ballots for the British Film Institute and Sight and Sound magazine's once a decade greatest films of all time poll had any expectation that the movie would come in at number one in the number one spot. Nevertheless, it persisted. So in other words, I think they're just putting films that they think belong on the list.
It's an aggregate.
It's an aggregate. So the one that came up the most was this film. It wasn't that they put it at the number one spot necessarily.
Here's my opening argument and why I think lists like these are important.
Oh, yes, please.
But I wasn't quite finished.
Go ahead. Oh, he's not done with his...
Look, okay, so there's that film that came in number one. Now, number 2 and 3 have regularly been number 2 and 3 for the past few decades. Number 2 is Vertigo, which is aesthetically pleasing and has artistic merit. Number 3 is Citizen Kane, which, let's face it, that's always been...
Except that this Jean Diamant it does not have artistic merit.
No, I'm sure it does. But here's the thing.
Wait, aesthetically, you mean just by the beauty of it? I mean, it may definitely have that.
But here's
I think if it has to be entertaining, then you might be falling into the classic Hollywood cinema trap of defining all film as having to be Hitchcockian or Spielbergian. Who it's interesting is not. Yeah.
Hitchcock is quite represented on this list.
Hitchcock is Spielberg is not at all.
So that's what I wanted to mention, Nickon.
Spielberg is not.
Check it out. So you had movies like Moonlight and Get Out, and look, I understand Get Out it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's one of the 100 greatest movies of all time.
I wouldn't say it's better than Schindler's List.
So exactly. So these are the directors that were not represented at all on this list. There is no Tarantino, no Spielberg, no Woody Allen. Say what you will about the person,
sure, that's
but
separate.
Annie Hall is definitely one of the greatest films of all time. There's no Roman Polanski. Chinatown should be on this list. No David Lean. No Robert Altman. No Coen Brothers. No Coen Brothers. Paul Thomas Anderson. No Richard Linklater. There are no Disney movies on this list at all. And Pinocchio should be on here, and probably Snow White for historical purposes. There's no Pixar films. Toy Story should probably be on here.
Here's the thing. Here's what you're
doing. Hold on. Okay.
And there are no musicals.
You had your time.
There's only one musical, Singing in the Rain, which is not even close to being the greatest musical of all time.
In the presidential debates, you'd be like going over.
No David Lean. No David Lean. Lawrence of Arabia should be on this list. Anyway.
That is debatable because, that, I don't know, is that aged well? I was pretty bored when I watched it.
I disagree.
Well, we don't have to go into that.
I'll have order in this court, I tell you.
Okay.
No Peter Bogdanovich, by the way, either. Go on.
Okay, cross-examination. Go ahead.
First of all, I am going to ask you, I think later on, Nicky should answer. Then how would you do it? How would you make this list? Right? Because what you're arguing against is mathematics, right? This is an unedited, as far as I know, list that aggregates the opinions of professional critics and directors, and just says here's the math. The math says that this many people said this was a great movie, and that's not my argument. My main argument is that in a world, in a day and age, especially in a day and age as we are in, where there is no central culture to latch onto, there's no collective memory of anything anymore. Not anything, that's an exaggeration, but as it relates to culture, there's no Seinfeld, right?
Not everyone's watching the last episode of MASH together.
It is important to have some resource that says, "Hey, here are the holders of history and of tradition and of this media, and they watch for a living. They watch movies, and all of these people have decided that these are some movies that you should watch." Now, it becomes interesting. Okay, so that's the most important thing. The most important reason to have these lists. The fact that you're calling out all of these well-known directors as it's crazy that they're not on this list, right? I think that is the nature of human beings having to make these assessments based on their historical context, and they see that obviously, who doesn't love a Tarantino movie, right? But when you're sitting down and thinking about all of the movies in the world and all of the, you're going to have a little bit of a bias against Tarantino purely because of how popular his movies are in today's, so maybe in 100 years, once Tarantino's long gone and all that's left is the movies to speak for themselves, I'm sure all of his movies are not all of them, but I think part of it is that the Tarantinos and the Spielbergs are discounted in the minds of these professionals because they're thinking, yeah, of course these are great filmmakers and great films, but Jean Dielmont 23, whatever. Nobody knows about this movie, and it is so good that I'm going to upvote it a little more than I normally would if I were a robot who was just assessing things based off of the pure, aesthesis points that a film would get, or
How do you explain Get Out being on this list? That was extremely popular, and that beating out any of these other directors' greatest works is blasphemy.
Human psychology.
Well,
human psychology.
I felt like it was a political thing here.
You would think that if it wasn't just an aggregation of people's opinions.
But I feel like people maybe felt the need to represent different minority groups in their list, and whilst maintaining a pretentious quality on their list, and that's why they didn't pick these popular filmmakers. Perhaps.
Okay,
I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Can I just interject?
I don't disagree with that.
I do want to
that went into a person's decision to say that Get Out is better than Schindler's List or whatever it is. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I'm not one of these people that say like we have to overcorrect or anything like that, but like that's just the way the numbers came out.
Okay, but why is it that? Yeah, and so you asked.
Wait, hold on. I as the judge, I have a right to interject.
All right, go ahead.
I do want to. Basically, what Nickon is saying is that a lot of these movies in 100 years that are on this list otherwise won't be remembered. And so it's the job of these critics, they're thinking we need to make them remember because they're worth it to be remembered. Whereas a Spielberg film or a Tarantino film, we don't, that job is already done. Those films are hugely popular. It was impossible to forget those movies. Yeah. So we don't need to put those on the list.
Okay. Would it be helpful? Would it be helpful if the name of the list is top 100 movies you should see before you die?
Yes. So there is a list called, well, I don't know if there's a movie version of this, but there's an album version of this. I think it's Colin Larkin is the guy's name. But 1001 albums you must listen to before you die. Oh, and it's really good. It's very eclectic. It's extremely eclectic. Yeah. No, not every year. Not every year. Like every 10 years or something.
And I think that would sit well, right? Because you take away even if it is pretentious to say like you need to listen or you need to watch this Jean whatever movie, Jean Dielmont, 23, etc. At least the author of the list is saying, look, I'm not going to tell you this is the best movie of all time. That's insane. But it's a movie you should watch before you die, if for no other reason that it gives you a better understanding of what's been out there, what's influenced all these other filmmakers, what we are referencing, we the critics are referencing when we draw comparisons between this type of film and that movie and all that kind of stuff. I do think it creates a better general movie-going experience if you have a little bit of context.
Well, here's the thing, Nickon. In 2012, some of these directors were represented on that list. So it seems to me that with the passing of time and maybe younger critics being involved in this aggregate, they are purposefully denying a place for these older directors to be on the list. For example, Chinatown was very high up on the list in 2012. And it is, if you've seen it, I don't know if you have, but I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece. And I don't think, by taking that off of the list, younger generations are not going to remember an older movie like that. They're not. And
sure. And, okay. Yes. Keep going. But yes.
The old Disney movies, first of all, there's only 2 animated movies on this list, and they're both Miyazaki films.
Yeah,
it came to mind that, that's ridiculous. With a list like this, I think that
Miyazaki should be on the list too, but
I think maybe
there's a
director should only be allowed to be represented once on the list.
Okay. Now we're getting into weird fiddling around territory.
Sure, but Hitchcock,
which I don't dislike.
I love Hitchcock. I think he is one of the greatest directors of all time. Yeah. But man, there's like there 6 4 or 5 films. Yeah,
him and Godard are tied, right?
Him and Godard have the most. Yeah. And look, Rear Window is definitely one of the greatest movies of all time, no doubt about it. But doesn't it get a little? We get the point. Like, okay, Hitchcock is somebody whose filmography we should check out. Why do we need to see him 5 times on a list?
Here's what I think you're falling victim to. You are seeing this because today is today and it's the present, and that's how we humans think. You think that this is the end all. This is the final draft of the list, rather than seeing it as a snapshot, right? Like, I mean, actually, it's funny. People are like, "Oh man, remember when Bush was president? We thought how terrible the president was, and then when Trump was president, we're like, oh my God, Bush was a dream." I could not tell you how many conversations I had where people were complaining that Citizen Kane is supposedly the number 1 movie of all time. Blah, blah, for 50 years.
Yeah, can I
for historical context? objectively agree.
Can I
with
piggyback off of that? So this guy, who I think very well puts this all very well with regards to all of these things. He talks about Citizen Kane and says, so let's see. So Jean Dielmont certainly can be called the most demanding of the number ones to have been honored on the poll. I share my friend Farron Smith Nemi's amusement. She wrote to me that she thought it funny that all those bright young people spent years telling me Citizen Kane could not be the greatest film of all time because it's boring and nothing happens. In a sense, Jean Dielmont tells Citizen Kane to hold its beer, which is kind of interesting, you know. So
it's like
where are those people now who might think, you know, there might be other people out there thinking, no, your guys are wrong. You guys, and here's the thing, this is also coming from, I haven't seen the movie. Have you guys seen the movie? You can't totally
but I can
argue
tell
that.
you, listen, you know what I did happen to watch last week before this list came out, right? I don't think the list came out until what?
It came out like 2 days ago, yeah.
I just happened to watch Persona for the first time.
Oh, I watched it during the quarantine for the first time.
And I was like, okay, there's some interesting stuff here, but like, I don't know. You know, maybe
I don't agree with you. I think it's a really good movie.
I think it's fine. I think it's a good movie. Whatever.
And obviously very influential on David Lynch.
Sure, let's not even get into David Lynch because Mulholland Drive. Okay, I love that David Lynch exists. He seems like one of the loveliest people alive, but I don't like his work.
I gotta disagree.
I like that he does stuff, and I like a lot about his work. But Mulholland Drive is one of the most overrated, like, just fart of a movie.
I gotta order in this court. Order in this court.
Look, Nickon.
Max calls for order whenever I say something he doesn't agree with.
I don't. Look,
it's not something that is the argument at hand.
So
I guess
for listeners who are not realizing this, Mulholland Drive is in the top 10 on this list.
It's in the top 10. I
And
forgot.
while
No,
I
that is
agree-
not. I don't. Think
While I agree that
Thank you.
Mulholland Drive is certainly not one of the 10 greatest movies of all time, I do love that film. And look, David Lynch, I think, is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And what, you don't like Twin Peaks?
I like Twin Peaks. I like Twin Peaks. I like season one of Twin Peaks, though.
Sure.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, everything has to be qualified, though. It's like, I like this aspect of like Mulholland Drive, but like if the entire thing is like, oh, it was some woman's dream or whatever.
Well, no, he didn't intend for you to know that.
Well, you have to read you have to be in a film class to know what the movie's even about.
Well, that's what's cool is it's a very thought-provoking.
So right now, Nickon, you're arguing against this list then in a way.
Well, sure, yeah. But that's
and look, Blue Velvet is on the list too. And
Blue Velvet, I would look. I don't think Mulholland Drive should be in the top 10.
I think,
I don't even think Blue Velvet should
say
be
that's
on.
The quintessential David Lynch movie to watch. I understand that being on the list.
I get that, but I don't know if it should be
on a list of things. But like, there's some fun stuff about it. But it's also just okay. Look, it's weird. His whole thing. The only reason anybody thinks he's great is because he does things weird.
No, here's why. Because there's something viscerally interesting about it, and I think that's cool.
He does something weird, but it's pleasing though too. At the same time,
and it can be very scary too.
Kind of. It's for me. It's like I just feel like it's the feeling I have when I've just thrown up a little in my mouth. That's like watching all of his movies. And again, I love.
You're not pleased when that happens? No, I'm just.
Yeah, it depends on what I ate. I love the guy, but you know, none of his movies have like a rewatchability for me.
That's like saying I think Mulholland Drive has definite rewatchability. In fact, Twin Peaks. I've rewatched it a couple times.
Well, except Fire Walking.
Maybe I got to say this. Maybe I need to rewatch Mulholland Drive. I will do that. That'll be. I promise you this.
Now, here's the thing about. I was
going to make a point though.
This.
All right, well.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I forgot it. Go ahead.
Here's the thing about this list, though, is it almost purposefully neglects what you're saying, the popular opinion, what audiences would deem the greatest movie. Because if you go on IMDb top 200 movies, Shawshank Redemption has always been at the top
because
for many years.
We don't need BFI's, whatever the publication is, Sight and Sound, we don't need them to tell us what the most popular films are.
Sure,
that's what we have the box offices for. That's what we have IMDb.
And so you're not going to get a movie like Back to the Future on there,
right?
But why are comedies so underrepresented on this list in general? Critics
don't have a sense of actually.
It seems like critics don't have a sense of humor. I mean,
I know the one that they do put on here.
Some of them do.
Is Some Like It Hot. Some Like It Hot, and I still don't understand why that's on any list as one of the greatest comedies.
That's one of those historical context things. That's because
no, exactly. But historical context. But if that's the case, then lists like these, they include these current movies, and I just think, I just.
But again,
people are going to think they're going to think this. Yeah, I guess people are going to watch it. 100 years from now, I'm going to be like. Some Like It Hot. I don't understand why this was ever on a comedy list of the greatest comedies of all time.
Nicky thinks you think it's like your opinion against this other person's opinion. And if it was one person's opinion that Jean Dielmont 23 Clyde du Commerce.
It's funny that you gotta every time you say you have to say the whole thing.
Et cetera, et cetera. If you were talking to an individual who said that, you would have a lot to talk about. And you would say, I think you're wrong and you're insane that you think you're so pretentious, blah, 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 yada, yada. But you're not arguing against a person. You're just saying the aggregation of all these people's opinions is distasteful.
Yeah, but Nickon, it seems like, okay, they put Singing in the Rain in there because they thought, that's the one they've been told is a very important musical to put
Singing
in there.
Singing in the Rain they're not, is very popular. I mean, a lot of people know that movie.
It's a very popular movie, but you don't think that Wizard of Oz is a more important musical to put on this? I do. It was a technical feat at the time, and it's not like Singing in the Rain there's something for historical context more advanced than Wizard
I will
of Oz.
say one thing about it is they kind of break the fourth wall in it. That is
the Wizard of Oz, for that not to get any placement on here is a travesty, I think.
I think I figured it out. Okay. I figured it all out, guys. The list should be named 100 movies you should see before you die, or something like that. 100 movies you should see if you want to have a full, robust
if you want to seem pretentious in a conversation.
That's what it should be called. No, you should see it. Like I don't
No, you're right. Some of these movies are undoubtedly great, by the way.
I'm not looking forward to watching Jean Dielmont 23 blah blah blah, but I will because I think I should.
Sure.
Me too. That's been on my list actually, by the way, for a while. I learned about it,
All right, but go on
from this list.
That was just Max bragging about how pretentious he is. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay, so then what would be the point?
Let me finish the point. We only have a minute for this recording, but
sure. Shoot.
Less than a minute. You know what? Hold on.
Let him finish.
No, I'll get it out in less than a minute. The list should be called, here are a bunch of movies that you should see. You, middle of the road, just average Joe who probably thinks Pulp Fiction is the greatest movie ever.
Who probably won't read this list anyway, by the way.
Okay, true. Well, okay. So let me finish the thought. Okay, so that's what the name should be, but it's not so that people like us spend hours of their time arguing about other movies that should have been there, and then perhaps, hopefully, being exposed to movies like Jean Dielmont for their own posterity.
Yes. Just to say, to piggyback off that, it sparks discussion about movies that otherwise wouldn't have discussion. People wouldn't discuss, actually. I mean, how many times are you going to be in a conversation where people are going to be talking about Jean Dielmont's yada, yada, yada? I mean,
you have to say the whole thing.
It takes a year to say the title, actually, even,
Right.
So, I think that that's important because clearly, if enough critics are voting it to be on the list, there is importance in it at the very least, I mean, there is something, and we can't discount that. You guys haven't watched it yet, and I haven't, so we should watch it.
You heard about it before we did, which is very impressive.
And I haven't heard about it yet. I have a friend I wanted to watch it during the quarantine, and I just was like,
why would I spend
it's
3.5
so
hours
long.
of my day?
Seeming. But I was talking to a friend of mine who is he's a professor of film and film theory, and he's also a student of the practice of film currently. And he said, "Oh yeah, I love that movie."
But he's
a film professor.
He loves Tarkovsky, who is very represented on this list.
But he isn't a pretentious person, though.
But hold on,
he's very
taste.
I watched Mirror by Andrei Tarkovsky during the quarantine.
Yeah,
and it's on this list, by the way.
Right, I saw that.
And boy, was that probably the most boring movie I watched during the quarantine. I could not sit. It's only an hour and a half long too, or maybe an hour 45. It was so hard to get through.
But isn't it interesting that the directors poll, and I don't know who these directors are. Maybe they only chose the most pretentious directors to vote.
Well, I know that like Martin Scorsese is involved in the voting of it, but
he's more of a nerd than
definitely more of a nerd.
I do want to say. Because, Nicky, you were kind of grousing about it maybe having some... you didn't use the word here, but this is according to this guy on Decider, who I think actually puts things pretty well. He said, and any reactionary who wants to claim that the list is following some kind of woke agenda will have to explain why The Searchers is still on the list, let alone at number 15.
It's because...
Five places ahead of Seven Samurai... I myself would swap their positions. One would also have to explain the almost, he says, literal dearth of African Indian films, which you can count on the fingers of one hand. Ousmane Sembène's Black Girl.
No, I know it.
Jibril Diop,
Ponder Panchali's on there.
Tuki Buki, and Satyajit
I think my response
I don't even
to
think
that
that's
guy,
the best movie.
It would be entirely incorrect to grouse that this cinematic landscape is no country for old men. Kane is now number 3. That's pretty high, and Vertigo holds number 2.
But
those are still quite high.
That's not even. But that's the thing is, Ponder Panchali is on here, but that's not even the best movie in the Apu series, the Apu's World series. The last movie is actually, but that's neither here nor there. That sounds really pretentious of me to say, but. The Searchers is the only Western on here, and I feel like
Seven Samurai,
these young people voted. I guess that's kind of a Western, but and Seven Samurai should be on here. I agree,
sure.
but
should Parasite be on here? I mean,
The Searchers by no stretch is the greatest Western of all time, in my opinion.
The Searchers,
I agree.
And rightfully so.
I haven't seen the
rightfully
Searchers,
so. That writer should argue that. It doesn't hold up that well in terms of
racism
the way
and stuff.
The racism and things go today. There are better Westerns from the 40s and 50s that are not racist like that, like High Noon, for example. That should be on this list over The Searchers.
That's also an important Western, not because it's just a Western, but it has a political...
For a genre that isn't made too much anymore... By your logic, Nickon, that should be represented more on this list because people are going to forget about them.
The numbers speak for themselves. I'm just these are the votes. The votes are in, baby. But it's not that.
I mean, they all put Once Upon a Time
in the West. Oh, sorry, that's a spaghetti Western.
That's spaghetti Western. I think it's
a fantastic movie.
It's great.
It's good, but
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is better.
Here's the thing: you all have seen it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That movie could have ended 3 times. It's kind of hilarious each time that you think it's going to end, and then it continues even more. Like I think Jason Robards' character is like about to die on his horse, and you think, "Oh, this is it for him," and then he's like, he has an extra ounce of breath, and he keeps riding his horse into the. It's like you gotta be kidding me! It's like a joke. Actually, it's ridiculous
on every movie. But these are aggregated votes.
Okay,
and again, I will repeat. I don't think we spent enough time on this. You're looking at it as if they're saying, "This is it. This is the last time we're ever going to vote about this, and never again shall we reassess the merits." I just have to say it again. Jean Diamant Ventre, Droit de Commerce, etc. Sorry. They're not saying that. They're just saying this year, hey, listen, let's shake things up a bit.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe in the decade, Citizen Kane is going to be number one again, and we're going to go back to bitching about that.
Well, I actually don't have a problem if that were number one, because from a historical context, that was very revolutionary for all the film techniques he used in it. I understand that, actually, from an objective standpoint. But anyway, and I actually do think Citizen Kane is a pleasurable watch. I think it's very interesting.
Do too. I love that.
This guy also, he wanted to mention that Louise Buñuel is not represented at all.
He was on the 2012 list.
Well, I know. That's why they think...
He's represented on the director's list, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Louis Buñuel, by the way.
Louis, yeah.
Oh, it's Louis Buñuel. So Buñuel.
La Chienne Andalou.
But a lot of people, it's that this guy's favorite director is Louis Buñuel.
I do want to move over to like other lists.
Well, he's a critic too.
I want to move over to other lists, like Rolling Stone magazine 500 greatest albums of all time. That is not necessarily an aggregate of a bunch of critics, and so it seems even more like an arbitrary list that is influenced by current woke culture, maybe, or something like that.
Well, Rolling Stone is a publication with a bias towards rock and roll, right? Maybe, I think.
It used to be.
It used to be, but now it's like their idea of what is included in, like, for instance, it's the same guy that is responsible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
and a lot of people have a problem.
And
with
a lot of rock and rollers have a huge problem with the voting system and just the bias that, because ultimately, what's the point of these things? It's to kind of preserve.
To sell magazines.
Well, but what's the point of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? It's to kind of preserve, celebrate these artists that hopefully that in 100 years will continue to be remembered, and it really should be called the Popular Music Hall of Fame, actually, because there's a lot of people in there that haven't been represented. And, like Rolling Stone, for instance, they put 100 greatest guitarists of all time, and there's so many guitarists that...
There's no jazz musicians
on there.
Which is insane.
Crazy.
Because jazz musicians are the best musicians, in my opinion.
For the drummer list, do they do jazz drummers? Because that would be...
I don't know if there's a drummer.
I don't know if there's a drummer list.
Oh, they don't have a drummer list?
For example,
I've never seen one myself.
On the 100 greatest albums of all time, yes, I feel like there should be a caveat with this list where they should say when rock music became the popular form of music. Because
I think the caveat is we're Rolling Stone magazine. We're here to sell magazines.
Right.
We're super
I guess nobody buys their magazines.
Take it all with a grain of salt. Right?
The top 10 on here.
I guess, but like for instance,
the caveat. Nobody's saying Rolling Stone is the authority of all musical.
No, it's not. But people hold the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in like this kind of esteem that really shouldn't be held in that esteem. Like for instance, they'll include rap artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well, and it's like, okay, why aren't you including these jazz artists? Actually, I mean, there is a jazz Hall of Fame, I think, too, but.
It's popular. You're right. It's popular music.
It's a popular music Hall of Fame, really.
But even though jazz was the popular form of music in the 30s and 40s, right?
But the Hall of Fame didn't exist then, did it?
No, but the Hall of Fame started in the 80s. But look, Missy Elliott, one of her albums is in the top 10 on this 500 greatest albums of all time, and it's a bit outrageous. It's as if I'm like, that's not even the greatest hip hop album of all time,
but it's kind of, it's going to spark conversation, and people are going to be like, we should take another listen to this.
So what are you trying? You're the judge. You're not supposed to be taking sides.
I'm not. I'm offering, an argument against.
In the last time they did this list, the 500 greatest albums, Sgt. Pepper's was number one, and. Look, I know a lot of people will say that's not the Beatles' best album, but from a historical context and what that album was doing, it is in a way. But now that album's not even in the top 10 on this latest list, and Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" is number one now.
Mr. Weinbach, you'll have to settle down, or else I'll find you in contempt of this court.
Look, and Pet Sounds is number 2 on that list.
Sorry, I just wanted to say it.
Pet Sounds has always been number 2 on the list, and look, that is
has it. Oh, that's interesting.
It's still number 2.
Number 2, and look, it is one of the best albums of all time.
That is,
but a list like this, it's almost like it's made to incite discussion and fury from a true rock and roll
they're trying
to / music lover.
Do you think? Okay, let's put it this: would the ideal world, would the ideal situation be that Rolling Stone puts out a list, and every single person in the world is like, "Yes, we agree with all of these rankings. This is perfect."
Right?
That
wouldn't be ideal.
There's something underrepresented on these
Ideally, you'd want to have debate and think, okay, let's re-examine some of these things that we just, for some reason in our collective consciousness, as you were mentioning before, we decided, oh, this is the greatest album of all time. Well, let's re-examine that. Why do we think this? Let's put another one in there. Let's really ask ourselves,
There's a decade that's very underrepresented on this list and has been on their previous list, and it's the 80s. And the 80s is arguably the greatest decade for music because of how much innovation happened during that decade. And you don't see really any 80s new wave bands on here, which is a travesty. You're like, Duran Duran's not on this list at all? That's insane.
But here's the thing. Are we guilty of just being humans who can only think of this moment as being the end of history?
No, but I
think is that this year, the 80s is underrepresented. Maybe for the next 10 years, but maybe in 20 years, when if any of these bands are worth what you're saying, then they will stay on, or they will be on the list.
But here's the thing: so in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Duran Duran was just inducted this year, and it wasn't by the choice of the promoters of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that put them in there. It was the fan vote that got them in, and it showed that they had by far the highest fan vote out of any artist that was inducted this year. And it just goes to show you that the fans, I think they recognize, hey, this is an important band and should be inducted. Why can't you, people who are seemingly pretentious, although you vote in bands like Green Day before Duran Duran, why can't you recognize that this stuff has more merit?
Well, I will say they do put that stipulation in there that there is an actual fan vote in case that they say that, hey, we didn't get it right. So they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that. I mean, they're creating it. Also, I just do want to say,
I guess you're right.
Not only
validates it, I think.
Yeah, not only will these lists spark debate about what's on the list, but they also are sparking debate about what's not on the list. So it gets us to talk about what should belong on the list. So in putting things that you think shouldn't belong on the list or should definitely not be number one, it automatically gets us to talk about the Spielbergs and the Tarantinos. So because those are popular enough already that we don't need to, again, to Nikon's point, they don't need to be on the list because by virtue of them not being on the list, we're going to talk about them anyway.
Yeah. If there was any risk of our generation forgetting about E.T. or Back to the Future or Schindler's List.
Schindler's List is the movie you keep going to.
I mean, it's like I haven't seen it in a long time, but
look,
it's really good.
It's really great.
And I keep thinking of the Seinfeld, but like I can't say Schindler's List without thinking about.
You were making out during Schindler's List.
So forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, if the critics sensed that like Schindler's List was dropping out of the zeitgeist, or not like the zeitgeist, but then I think they would correct for it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Except when it's like a movie like The Godfather, which has never been in danger of falling out of the zeitgeist.
That's true.
And they're still putting it very high up on this list, right?
Maybe that's because Coppola only has a handful of masterpieces.
Apocalypse Now is on this list as well, by the way.
maybe there's something
let's talk about what couple of
having
masterpieces are. I think The Conversation's a really good movie.
It's a good movie, but it's not a master. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece.
It's not a masterpiece.
Look, The Godfather.
Well, I mean, how many filmmakers can claim that all their movies are masterpieces?
Tarantino and Spielberg, and not all of them
Spielberg
are.
Not Spielberg.
No. I wouldn't say they, but like
I would say Tarantino
comes many masterpieces.
I would say Tarantino comes the closest only because he hasn't made that many movies compared to those people. Actually, he's only made 9. I think
he has the highest success rate. In
What's
my
that?
opinion,
High success rate because he hasn't made as many. I think that's why.
Sure,
look, it's undeniable that Steven Spielberg has made quite a few masterpieces. I mean, obviously Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan,
Indiana Jones.
Even though I don't consider this a masterpiece, a lot of people do, and it's on the director's list. Jaws is on there.
I think it was historical
purposes.
Yeah.
E.T. You could argue. I don't know.
I really like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Encounters of the Third Kind is
Jurassic Park.
Huge movie.
Look, he's got a lot. Indiana Jones, as Max said, but
yeah.
So yes, you are right in the sense that
also
there's a reason why Star Wars is not on this list, right? Because that's not anywhere in danger of losing favor with the popular vote.
Well, I will say it is kind of in danger for the younger generations who know the newer Star Wars. And so for a lot of people...
I don't think so.
Okay, whatever.
I mean...
Is Terminator 2 on it?
No, and it should be.
Should be.
There's no action. There's not really any action adventure movies on this list.
There's a bias
or
too.
Sci-fi. There's one sci-fi movie, and that's Blade Runner. And
that's good.
That should be on the list. But look, Terminator 2, that is one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's interesting that Blade Runner's on there. Should that be on the list as opposed to Alien? That's a good question.
Because you know why? Because Blade Runner is pretentious.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Alien is not.
So you're arguing in my favor. Okay, good.
I know, but out of popularity, what is more popular of a movie? I mean,
Alien for sure.
You think so?
Yeah,
I mean,
Alien. For
I
sure.
guess so because there've been more sequels made.
Okay, so
but Alien is more important, I would say, because I mean. Because of the female representation in that movie, like the feminist, representation in that movie, I think is very important. Anyway,
okay.
I think this is exactly we're playing into their hand. We are doing exactly what they want us to do, which is chit chat about movies and our opinions and the merits.
Sure. But
I noticed that Playtime is on this list, by the way.
Right,
that's pretty neat.
He should be represented on here.
What's I don't even think I know.
Jacques
Tati.
Oh, that's the little silly comedy from what was it, like 60s? 70s?
Yeah, 60s.
Yeah,
it's on both lists actually.
Mr. Hulo.
Right. Yeah, I saw that in a film class.
It's one of my older brother's favorite movies of all time.
It's Mr. Hulo. I'm getting that right?
I think so. Hulo. I like the movie. It's not one of my favorites, but. I can understand why it's on the list. But okay, then what do you make of like a list? So Rolling Stone made another list a while back of the 100 greatest SNL cast members. And you're like, this is completely subjective.
The 100 greatest out of 140? Like how many?
But you're like ranking the... So
this is quite a bit, actually.
This is where I want to bring it back to...
Who was number one? Who was number one?
I can't. I think John Belushi, which definitely.
I think that is a classic. His legend out. The fact that he died young and all that kind of stuff gave him way more. I'm not saying he wasn't talented or funny or lovable, all that kind of stuff.
I agree with you, Nickon, 100%.
Compared to John Lovitz,
I agree.
To Dana Carvey, though.
Look, Dana Carvey was so popular in his time.
Phil Hartman.
I think
Phil Hartman. They called him the glue.
Phil Hartman is one of the greatest comedic actors of all time.
Sure.
There, I said it.
Look, but here's
you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that disagrees.
Here's the main point I want to make, Nickon, and this is why I agree with you that it should be retitled 100 movies you should watch before you die. Is we were talking last time about the Beatles versus the Rolling Stones and how much you didn't like even the fact that we're pitting these bands against each other.
Yes.
Well, ranking movies like this is inherently pitting them against each other in a way. And that is something that I have a problem with because everything is so subjective, and who's to say something is the greatest? Yes, it's going to incite conversation like this one. But
yeah, well, I think that's purely the point. In fact, now that we're talking about this,
but with
Nickon, I'd have to disagree with our final assessment last week about pitting bands against each other. I think there is some importance in that it may cause you to explore the band you were going against a little bit more and
or
reassess
it might have
them,
the opposite
actually.
effect. And this is why I want to have a separate
making more ardent.
I want to have a separate conversation about like music beefs, because like for the longest time I grew up being a Tupac fan, and I just arbitrarily hated Jay-Z because of a lot of his songs.
It's a hard knock life or something like that.
Well,
it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I do want to get into it, so I'm going to save it for another time. But like, so I think with an individual piece, I think there's more room for like interplay and like to like emotionally remove yourself from like a fight, like between artists or whatever. But I think
it's
listen,
funny.
I
think we're falling victim to the marketing ploys of BFI, right? Or the magazine that they own. All they're saying is we can all agree. I think if we could all agree that when we read the greatest films of all time, we could understand that to be, here are some movies you should see that you haven't seen. If you haven't seen it, hey, you should see it. All these professionals think it's worth seeing. Then we wouldn't have a problem, right? Because we would see it as it is. We see it as a snapshot in this moment in time. They're not saying forever and ever, this is the greatest, watching someone, make her breakfast and she's an ex-prostitute, that's the best movie ever. But like, it's worth watching today or in the next 10 years.
Right.
Let them do their marketing thing and say, these are the best, and like get the rest of the population arguing and pulling their hair out and like being outraged,
But I guess the problem is that, again, people like us are the only ones that are going to be looking at a list like this, right? I mean, somebody I don't want to generalize.
Don't say the Midwest.
Somebody in the middle of America is not.
I'll say the South and Midwest.
Yeah. Somebody in the South or Midwest is not going to look at this list unless they're really, I don't know. Anyway.
Well,
or even my own parents. Or
we'll look at the list, though. We're looking at the list, and so it's making me think, at least it's a reminder to me, I have to watch this Jean Dielman,
Right.
Non-cinephiles are not going to look at this list, really,
No, but they will, if you have a conversation with, some, I don't know, if you see this movie, Jean Dielman, 23, etc.
Katie Comar's 1080.
And you have a conversation with somebody, I don't know, the coffee, like the barista or whatever, just like in passing. Oh, I just saw this movie. It was so boring. Oh, what was the movie? It was Jean Dielman, 23, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that barista will someday. Am I saying barista right?
That's right. Barista, yeah.
I say barista. Barista. Maybe that barista will then go and watch the movie. Or I don't
or maybe you talk about you both watched it and you have a disagreement, but the disagreement eventually leads to you falling in love with that barista, and you get married eventually.
And that's the only disagreement you'll ever have.
And so what I'm trying to say is there's really not very many rom-coms on this list, and a setup like the one I just explained should be represented on this list.
Well, let me ask you, but speaking of rom-coms, I mean, what rom-com would you put on any list as like a great film?
Well, the pretentious person would say Before Sunrise.
I think it should be on this list.
Yeah, but
though,
that's not a rom-com though.
Oh, I guess it's not a com. You're right. Yeah.
I think that Richard Linklater should be represented on this list, and I think that one of the Before movies should be on here. Or,
I actually like
Dazed and Confused.
I like Before Sunset more than Before Sunrise.
Me too.
Actually. And I haven't seen Before Midnight, which I heard is even better, actually.
Really?
I've heard that they progressively get better. Not to say that I think Before Sunrise is good too, actually.
But
I think it's pretty great, actually.
Nickon, I actually do think, and here's another beef I have with the list, is that, so It Happened One Night is both a rom-com and a bit of a screwball comedy. And again, comedies are underrepresented on this list. Massively underrepresented, and
yeah, that is a shame. Actually,
there's a lot of screwball comedies by like Howard Hawks that
His Girl Friday. His
Girl Friday. They should be on this list so people remember them because they're very important. You know,
I mean that is a really
and that's not
choreography.
That's not news. You know, like they're always snubbed in the Oscars, all that kind of stuff.
Right? They're always snubbed in the Oscars.
I mean, by the way, Singing in the Rain. It's a fun movie. I know a lot of people love it as their favorite movie musical. It's not my favorite movie.
But come on, West Side Story should be on this. It was broke a lot of new ground.
Should be on it.
Should be on.
Or the filmmaking alone is just...
That's what I'm saying. As a film,
the filmmaking alone.
The direction, Robert Wise really did something different from what... He took the Broadway musical and was like, no, I'm going to make it a reason you have to watch the movie, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. But hey, you know, Mary Poppins is probably my favorite movie musical, but I can understand that not being on this list, but
yeah. But again,
but that's a personal opinion. But
and also let's remember that there are only 100 slots. So, you know, for every movie musical that you add to it, that's one less
French Jean Dielman 23.
Exactly. Also, and where would we be without that?
I will say this in favor of what you guys are saying. I am now going to watch Jean Dielman.
I am too, and I guarantee you,
I will at some point. But 3.5 hours,
three separate sittings, and I'm not going to like any of it, but I'm going to do it.
Here's
3.5 separate sittings.
Here's a thought. Maybe we should all see it together.
And, that's the thing. I don't think I can watch it all the way through.
We could take breaks.
Okay. Right. And I like some of my favorite movies are 3+ hours, but
right.
Just knowing what I know about
is like almost 4 hours. That's one of my favorite movies. I know it's not yours, but
it is. I do think it's quite good. Oh, by the way, there's this movie, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, on here. That was made in 2019.
Sure, yeah.
It's a reminder that I have to watch it. When it came out, I was talking with my friend. He's like, you really got to watch Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And my sister said it's really good too. So that's just, you know.
But if you're going to take the new slew of hip indie directors, then, I mean, there's a lot of great movies that have come out in the past decade, you know? I mean...
That's true.
So,
okay, here's my closing argument. The list should be called, here's a bunch of movies you might not have seen that you should. I know you have your favorites. I know you've seen Pulp Fiction. I know you've seen Schindler's List. God knows you won't stop talking about it. But here's some other movies that you might consider watching. That's point number one. Point number two is this is a snapshot. This is not the end all be all. In 10 years, we'll be right back at it, complaining about whatever the new list is. And that is my third point. That the main point of the list is for us to talk about these things and discuss their merits, the merits of the films.
Right.
Sorry.
So in other words,
words,
it shouldn't be called "These are some movies you should watch." It should actually be called the greatest movies of all time list, in order to provoke conversation
yeah, exactly. So it is
and debate,
a marketing ploy, but that is the nature of them wanting to spark conversation.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And how many people are now going to be talking about sight and sound?
My closing argument is. I ask you do find the list to be a bit outrageous, do you not?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But again, if I
there you go, enough said.
If I were talking to somebody and they said, "Hey, my favorite movie in the ever is Jean Dielman Vont de Tre," you know, then I would slap him across the face and I would never talk to him again. But that's not what we're not going against a person. We're going against an aggregation of a bunch of pretentious people's opinions.
But I will say,
you'll slap them or you'll fall in love.
I will say this, guys. Talking about this has maybe seen the light of lists like this, and in fact, that's why I love watching old clips of Siskel and Ebert reviewing movies, because often I don't agree with them, but I love watching people talk passionately about film.
It's interesting.
Whether or not I agree with it or not, it's just fun to...
Especially those two, they're pretty funny and can be pretty pretentious, and that's what's fun about watching them.
Okay, you're interrupting me. But,
sorry, go ahead.
It's fun for me to imagine what I would say in response to what they're talking about as a counter-argument, you know? They both did not like The Big Lebowski, for example, and they both, I feel like, just didn't understand the sense of humor, and that's why they didn't give it a thumbs up. But I mean, I don't know how you feel about The Big Lebowski, but
I mean, I loved it when I first saw it. I was blown away. It was my favorite movie for the longest time, and it only recently occurred to me that I think I think, and I haven't read this or heard this from anybody, so I don't know how correct it is, but like, I see that movie more than anything. Yes, it's like a noir or whatever. More than anything, I see it as like kind of an exploration of political extremes. You know, like I think I took for granted how much like they throw words like fascist around or
or nihilist or
conscientious objector. Like, it's riddled throughout.
But it's so damn funny, you're just forgetting all about it.
Yeah, but it's like what it really is to me is like just seeing all of these political worldviews go against each other.
Mm-hmm. Look, that's one of my favorite comedies of all time, actually. And
well, that makes it. Are you arguing that makes it better?
But Siskel and Ebert didn't see it that way, you know, and so that makes it interesting to watch them talk about it, and it makes it interesting to read lists like this, so I can think about what I would say as a counter argument to a lot of the choices that they made on this list. Especially Jean Dielman, 23 Quai du Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles.
Oh, boy, God, I just got bored of you saying
Sorry,
that.
What were you talking about? Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess my closing statement would be that maybe I agree with you guys overall. But
all right, look at that.
Okay,
nobody said Liverpudlian yet.
A cessation. What's that?
Nobody said Liverpudlian. On the podcast,
well, there you go. You said it.
I just did. Yes.
Or Scouser, as they also are called. Anyway, I will put a cessation to the proceedings of this court session. Court session adjourned.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
Keep tuning in.
Yes, please.